Greetings, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Under the Cupola. My name is Gaumond, and I have the pleasure and honor of serving as the town manager for the town of Weston. And as you might know, if you frequently watch this program, you know that I like to meet with people who try to do wonderful things within the community and actually provide a good public service for the community. We spend a lot of time over the last few years meeting people who serve in paid positions, staff positions in the town, and we've been meeting some people who serve in volunteer positions in a variety of positions within the community, and today is one of those. And today I'm joined by Glenn Butcher, who is not only a member of the Conservation Commission, but is brought here today to talk about the Community Preservation Committee, which he is the chair of, and the Community Preservation Act. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Leon. It's great to be here.
Oh, thank you.
I've been waiting for an invite for so long.
All you had to do was ask, and it would have been coming. So the Community Preservation Act, Weston was one of the early adopters of that. Tell me a little bit about, for the people at home that don't know what the Community Preservation Act, what does it do? What does it allow us to do?
Yeah, sure. I had to actually go back and do a little bit of research on this as well, because it goes back now 25 years. And, I've really only been involved the last few years. And it was kind of interesting to hear, some of the impetus for the creation of the Community Preservation Act, because some of those things are still true today. And I think, it really speaks to the, foresight some of the people had back in the 90s to kind of bring this act to fruition. But, the real genesis of this was a state that was growing rapidly in the 90s. And I don't know who the actual, initiators of it were, but in 2000, the governor signed the bill with the thought that it would do a few things for us. One, looking at a state that was growing rapidly with expansion, of cities into surrounding communities, and wanting to preserve, as the name of the act, actually discusses, is community preservation, right? What are those things which are really important and unique to communities that we want to preserve,
that might not be funded in an operating budget.
Exactly, yeah. And with contribution from the state to help communities fund those items. So it was looking at things like open space. How do we ensure that open space, which is now we see even more important to preserve. But even going back 25 years, and even further, in this state, obviously. Open space. Affordable housing was an issue back then too. And so that was one of the categories that they wanted to fund. And then obviously Massachusetts has just an incredible historical place, in this country, in this world, and wanting to preserve, the historical elements which really, are unique to Massachusetts. So the Community Preservation Act was passed to allow towns to, by their choice, vote towards putting a surcharge onto property taxes of 1% to 3%, and then getting some amount of match from state funds that are collected through recording fees. And what we've seen over time is we were one of the early adopters, as I understand it, relatively early in the creation of this program. We voted to approve a 3% surcharge. And each year, the state determines how much of that they're going to match based on how many communities are participating, at what level, and then they divvy that up between all the different communities.
And what the revenues are of that year.
That's right.
Yeah, so this past year, we've seen years where we've had a large match from the state. In more recent years, when cities like Boston came on board, that really kind of tapped what communities like Weston might expect. And I think this past year was around 17.5% match. But that's still good free money from the state to help us do things that would be hard. We would be hard pressed to just find ways within the operating budget to fund. And that's kind of what they were they were looking to accomplish.
Yeah.
And of course, you are the chair of the CPC, which is the Community Preservation Committee. Tell me, who makes up the Community Preservation Committee? You have representatives from all general public, all voters of the town of Weston.
Yeah, it's true. The CPC has standing members from Conservation Commission, of which I'm kind of both the chair and representing Concom, but we have representatives from the Historical Commission, Housing, Affordable Housing, Recreation, Planning, and then we have open member seats as well.
Yeah, so it's really the community making these decisions. So what are they making decisions on? So tell me about the application process.
Yeah, so the application process is that as we approach both the spring and the fall town meetings, we try to work out a schedule, and with fantastic assistance from you and Stephen and Susan. And we publish to the community that, here's the deadline for submitting applications into one of those categories we talked about before: housing, recreation, historical preservation. And we wait for those. Sometimes we know they're coming, but sometimes we get surprises too. People are thinking about things, and they submit applications to you. And then you kind of do the initial, making sure they're all up to snuff and ready to go to our committee. And then we go through a series of meetings where we review those proposals, and we weigh in on what we think are appropriate proposals to go before the town. And then we eventually, after one or two presentations, some back and forth with the submitters, we vote in a public meeting on whether to send them to the town meeting or not. And then those that go forward to the town meeting, they come up in the warrant and go for a vote before the town as a whole.
So ultimately, it really is the people of Weston deciding among themselves what is good. The people are the ones who come up with the applications and the submissions. The committee establishes, their review criteria, ask good questions, make recommendations to bring it forward, and then town meeting decides.
Exactly.
So it really is the people deciding for themselves where they want to spend their money.
That's right, and I think it took me a little while to get my head around what is the role of the CPC, because on the one hand, we want to make sure that anything that gets submitted is legal, within the constraints of what the CPA intended. And we have a wonderful resource in the Community Preservation Coalition, which is a statewide organization that kind of helps communities like ours understand the law, understand what other communities are doing, how they've tackled certain kinds of projects. They also have a wonderful database of every CPC project that's been approved ever since the founding. So I don't know, I think you and I both use that database extensively to say, okay, how have other towns, tackled a particular issue? And then, beyond just vetting a project to make sure that it meets the criteria, then I think it comes down to, we want to leave the vote to the public, but we also want to work with submitters to make sure that the proposals they're putting together have really been thought out, have gotten the right kind of estimates around them, that they're in line with what we believe to be the public will, but without constraining it. Obviously, ultimately, we want the town meeting to decide what goes up or down. Yeah,
good. So this is a really good process, and our website actually has a good listing of all the previous projects that have been approved, submitted, debated, with copies of their presentations, so people can go back and on our town's website and actually see what kinds of projects were we doing 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what were some of the priorities of the community, and actually see some of those things come to fruition. Some of the big ones that you kind of referenced early on, why we have the CPA in the first place, adopted it in the first place, the Case Estates purchase.
We're sitting here in the AIC.
The AIC, the building, that's right. The Josiah Smith Tavern, These are some major projects that were
Memorial
done.
Pool, Burchard Park pickleball courts. I mean, it's a long list, and, I love when, Susan on your staff, sends me the kind of financial update, and I go through that list, and it's like, oh my gosh, all of these amazing things, which are kind of like part of the fabric of this town now. And it's even more exciting to think about, well, what are those projects that we may have in the future that, will even build on that, amazing legacy.
Yeah. This is one of only a couple of committees in the town of Weston that are really positive moving committees. Your job is basically to help give money for preservation projects within the community, and it is so wonderful to have such a dedicated group of people leading the charge and in being involved in this.
It's such a great team. I thoroughly enjoy working with this team, and we have a great kind of collaboration on the team, and each person brings a whole different perspective. Well, not a whole different, but a unique perspective to the process. And so we have lawyers on the team. We have people who, have just diverse backgrounds, and I think that's what kind of makes it special is, a team of people trying to do what's best for the community, enjoying the collaboration with the submitters, and helping them come to a really strong proposal that, we hope will get approved at town meeting.
And not every proposal comes to town meeting and is successful. Not every proposal comes to the CPC initially and is successful. But we've seen that, an initial proposal brought forward to the CPC, maybe some tweaks after it may not pass at town meeting, brought forward the following year, the following, town meeting. And then with those tweaks, it moves through the process relatively quickly.
Those are some of my favorite projects where, you have someone coming with a proposal and they're so passionate about it, and you can feel their excitement about it, and you just want to kind of work with them, but sometimes it's just not ready, and I think we've had other situations where maybe it wasn't ready and we sent it to town meeting and it, didn't succeed.
Yeah.
So I think we're always learning, and we're always trying to figure out the best way to really make sure that, these proposals get the light of day and move forward.
Let me make it a little personal now. What made you come to Weston Town Hall and start raising your hand and volunteering to serve on boards and committees? Like I said, you were also on the Conservation Commission, and that one, I would say, is a lot less fun than being on the CPC.
It's fun.
But you have some real, you have real hardcore, you sometimes have to discipline applicants, or you say no to petitions because of Mass General Law. But tell me, what made you step up and say, I want to be part of the government of Weston?
Yeah, it's really been one of the most unexpected and delightful surprises of my time here in Weston, because we moved here about 12 years ago and from New Jersey, and I had, if I can tell you, zero interest in local government when I was in New Jersey, and probably for the first 4 or 5 years I was here. My impression was it was people with too much time on their hands, working within a slow bureaucracy that just has all of the negative stereotypes around government. And you can blame Ellen Freeman, a good friend who was on the Conservation Commission, and a good friend of mine who I met through cycling, and we've become very close friends. But she was on the Conservation Commission, and she kept saying, Glenn, you really ought to think about doing this. And I'm like, I'm not sure, and eventually she can be persistent. So I raised my hand, and there was an open position on the Conservation Commission, and I got involved, and that was really kind of like opening up just an amazing different perspective on what it takes to run a town. Weston's not a huge town, but it's incredibly complex. I'm an engineer by training. I like to see things work well, and to see what it takes for a town of Weston to be run effectively was just eye-opening for me. And Conservation Commission, was a really interesting entry point into local government and volunteering. We meet about every other week, Tuesday evenings, and we review projects which are coming out. I know this isn't about CONCOM,
no.
But, it was really amazing to me. Jordan is a gem. I mean, I love the way Jordan, supports this town through his work and the way he runs the meetings. And, it was just really rewarding for me to see people trying to work towards solutions, to somewhat complex issues around, the Wetlands Protection Act, and not trying to be consistent, trying to be helpful, but at the same time fair, but also really trying to preserve our wetlands, which are critical and becoming increasingly critical. So that was really my entry into it. And then an opening for the CONCOM position on the CPC opened up, and
people twisted your arm enough that you had to take it.
It's funny. I talked to a few people, and they're like, CPC is like such a great, committee because of everything we just talked about. And so eventually I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. And then not long after I joined, Steve was departing as chair, and I was probably the least qualified person on the CPC to take over. And I told everyone, I was like, but no one was raising their hand. And, I saw an opportunity to help out. And I'm glad I did, because it's been just, another kind of perspective into, town government and working more closely with people like you, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm excited to see what else I can do in the town. I feel like I wish I had more hours in the day to get involved in more things.
I know the feeling.
No.
Tell me, if you had one thing that you want to tell the people as a closing comment about the CPC, what is something that you wish they would know about the CPC or the work that you folks are doing that you wish they would know?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there might be a couple of things. So I know you asked me for one thing, but I think, we really are focused on, I think, the financial responsibility of, this is, let's face it, this is an additional tax that people in the community are paying each year, on top of their property tax. And we want to be good stewards of that and make sure that, we're being fiscally responsible. So we've had some really good discussions over the past couple of years, both with FinCom, making sure that we have a good, strong connection with the FinCom, and to make sure that financially what we're doing and the rate we're spending at, the way we are carrying our debt load is aligned with the overall needs of the town of Weston. So I think that's point number one, is we really want to be good fiscal stewards of this, this precious resource that the community has empowered us with. I think the other thing that I want to make sure the community knows is that anybody can submit proposals into this process. There are the typical submitters, which are historical commission, affordable housing, recreation. But we also get proposals from a variety of groups. And, I feel like that is really an important element of what the CPA was about. And I think it's something you educated me on early, is the idea is that, anyone in the community can, have a great idea, go through the process of developing that idea, working with the different stakeholder, committees in town to get support for it, and then, get funding for it from, this resource.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Thank you and your committee for all the work that you folks do. And to the people at Weston, if you are interested in serving the town in any of our boards and committees, go to our town's website. We have a whole volunteer opportunities page which details all vacancies on boards and committees. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have your energy, your ideas, and your passion for making Weston a better place. Until next time, I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Under the Cupola, and we wish you the very best.